Welcome to the BBE Report. Bold thoughts, black issues, and educated opinions. A critical examination of culture and society through the eyes of a socially conscious black man. Featuring the reviews, rants, and reports by your host, Brother Ray. Okay, this article I'm going to bring to you is from CNN. I chose CNN particularly because they've shown themselves to be both a reliable news source when it comes to stats and information, and whether it's more recent or not, at least in my opinion, they also proven them to be a biased news source with their portrayal, at least of recent times. But they're the biggest media center when it comes to news source to the national public here in America. So I will go over CNN's coverage of the Dallas sniper attack. Here we go. Dallas sniper attack. 5 officers killed. Suspect identified. The ambush started with gunshots that killed 5 officers and sent screaming crowds scrambling for cover. It ended when a Dallas police bomb squad robot killed the gunman after negotiations failed. Investigators identified the dead attacker as Micah Xavier Johnson, 25, of Mesquite, Texas, a military veteran who served in Afghanistan. Police searched his home Friday and found bomb-making materials, ballistic vests, rifles, ammunition, and a personal journal of combat tactics. They are analyzing information in the journal, police said in a statement. Investigators determined Johnson was the lone shooter in this incident, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings said, confirming what federal officials had told CNN. This was a mobile shooter who had written manifestos on how to shoot and move, and that's what he did, Rawlings said at a news conference. As we started to unravel this fishing knot, we've come to realize this shooting came from one building at different levels. Rawlings said investigators' initial confusion about the number of shooters was partly because about 20 protesters wearing protective vests and carrying rifles scattered when the shooting started. Authorities said 3 suspects were in custody early Friday, but later told CNN they had been questioned and released. Well-planned attack. Dallas Police Chief David Brown provided more details during a prayer rally Friday. Through our investigation of some of the suspects, it revealed to us that this was a well-planned, well-thought-out, evil tragedy, he said. Nobody has been charged, Governor Greg Abbott said, but police want to make sure every lead is investigated. The deadly gun rifle erupted in Dallas after video showing 2 African men shot by police in Louisiana and Minnesota spurred protests and debate over police use of force across the country. 5 police officers were killed and 7 others wounded in the ambush. It was the deadliest single incident for U.S. law enforcement since September 11, 2001. 2 civilians were also hurt, the Dallas mayor's office said. Johnson killed by bomb. As officials condemned the attack, details emerged about the man who died after a lengthy standoff with police in a parking garage. Johnson told police negotiators that he was upset about recent police shootings, that he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers, and that he acted alone, the police chief said. We saw no other option but to use our bomb robot and place a device on its extension for it to detonate where the suspect was, Brown said. Other options would have exposed our officers to grave danger. The suspect is deceased as the result of detonating the bomb. Johnson had no criminal record or known terror ties, a law enforcement official said. He served in the U.S. Army Reserve from March 2009 to April 2015, training as a carpentry and masonry specialist, according to Pentagon records. Johnson was deployed for about 7 months in Afghanistan from late 2013 and received an honorable discharge. Johnson's neighbor Wayne Bino said police cars were outside his home Friday. Johnson lived with his mother and kept to himself, Bino said. Johnson had at least 2 weapons with him, a rifle and a handgun, 2 law enforcement officials said. One of the officials familiar with the latest information from the Dallas police investigation said the rifle was an SKS semi-automatic. The other official said Johnson's legally bought multiple firearms in the past. The attack. Witnesses said protesters were marching peacefully in downtown Dallas when the gunfire started Thursday night. The Reverend Jeff Hood, one of the protest organizers, said he saw 2 officers go down, then watched a sergeant running towards the gunfire. I ran the opposite direction. I was concerned about the 700 or 800 people behind me, he said. I was screaming, "Run, run, active shooter, run," and I was trying to get folks out as fast as I could. Crowds ran into a parking garage, witnesses said, and spilled out after word spread a sniper was nearby. Everyone was screaming. People were running, said witness Calissa Miles. I saw at least probably 30 shots go off. Police initially said at least 2 snipers fired ambush style from an elevated position before they exchanged gunfire and negotiated with the suspect, later identified as Johnson, for hours at a parking garage in downtown Dallas. Before authorities killed him with an explosive, Johnson told negotiators more officers were going to get hurt and that bombs were planted all over downtown. Police found no explosives during sweeps of the area. Dallas Police Major, the victims. The 5 slain officers were identified on Friday. Dallas police officers Lauren Aarons, a 14-year veteran of the department, and Michael Smith, a 27-year veteran, were both killed, according to local media reports, and Smith's sister, who spoke at CNN affiliate KFDM. CNN affiliate WDIV said Dallas officer Michael Kroll was killed. The last 2 officers were Dallas officer Patrick Zamarripa and Dart police officer Brent Thompson. Police have said at least 10 officers were shot by a sniper and 1 officer was shot in the shootout at the parking garage. It's not clear where the 12th officer was shot. Who are the slain officers? A few of the wounded officers remain hospitalized, police said. Brown called for the community to support them. We don't feel much support most days. Let's not make today most days, Brown said. Please, we need your support to be able to protect you from men like these who carry out this tragic event. The suspects. Though authorities said they're sure Johnson was the only shooter, they don't know if he had accomplices. I'm not going to be satisfied until we've turned over every stone, Brown said. We've got some level that this one suspect did do some of the shooting, but we're not satisfied that we have exhausted every lead, he said. So if there's someone out there who's associated with this, we will find you, we will prosecute you, and we will bring you to justice. The Dallas police chief told reporters it's too soon to speculate on the suspect's motives, and it's unclear whether more suspects are on the loose. Other shootings of police. 3 other shootings endangered police around the same time. In Bristol, Tennessee, a man opened fire on motorists early Thursday at a motel and along the Volunteer Parkway, killing a woman and wounding 3 people, including a police officer, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said. The TBI said a preliminary investigation reveals the suspect, Lakeem Keon Scott, 37, may have targeted individuals and officers after being troubled by recent incidents involving African Americans and law enforcement officers in other parts of the country. Witnesses said they heard someone yell, "Police suck, Black Lives Matter," before bullets fired, the TBI said. Scott was wounded by police, arrested and questioned at a hospital, the TBI said. In the St. Louis area, a police officer was shot in the back of his neck Friday morning by a suspect stopped for a speeding violation, Baldwin Police Chief Kevin Scott said. The officer was walking back to his patrol car when the suspect ran toward him, firing 3 shots from a semi-automatic handgun, Scott said. The suspect was arrested and the officer was in critical condition, Scott said. In Valdosta, Georgia, a police officer was shot Friday morning by a man who placed a 911 call, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation said. The officer, who is now in stable condition, went to an apartment complex to check on a reported car break-in and was shot twice when he exited his patrol vehicle, the GBI said. The officer returned fire and wounded the shooter, who was identified as the caller and arrested. The GBI said there was no connection to the Dallas shooting. A number of police departments across the country, including Chicago, Philadelphia, and Cincinnati, decided that officers should be paired up for an indefinite period. Chicago police said that the move was made to increase visibility and strengthen officer safety. The protests. The shootings occurred as many Americans nationwide took to the streets to demand answers over the killings of 2 black men by police in 2 days. In Minnesota, crowds gathered near the spot where an officer killed Philando Castile in a car Wednesday. Hundreds of miles away, protesters marched outside a convenience store in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where Alton Sterling was fatally shot Tuesday while police tackled him in a parking lot. Minnesota shooting. Both killings were captured on video and posted online. In Minnesota, the shooting of Castile was remarkable and heartbreaking because his fiancée streamed the immediate aftermath live on Facebook. As her 4-year-old sat in the back seat, Diamond Reynolds calmly narrated what was going on and showed viewers the dying man groaning and bleeding in the front seat. Castile, a school food service worker, was shot in Falcon Heights outside Minneapolis when a police officer pulled him over because of a broken taillight, said Reynolds, who was in the car with him. He let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm, she said as she broadcast the Wednesday shooting on Facebook. "Oh God, please don't tell me my boyfriend is dead," she said. Falcon Heights contracts with the city of St. Anthony Park for police services. Friday, Black Lives Matter held a new conference and called for Falcon Heights to terminate that contract. Baton Rouge shooting. Sterling, 37, was killed Tuesday near a convenience store in Baton Rouge where he regularly sold CDs and DVDs. A homeless man approached Sterling on Tuesday and asked for money, becoming so persistent that Sterling showed him his gun, a source told CNN. The homeless man called 911 and police arrived at the store. Police tackled Sterling to the ground and shot him several times, video shows. A law enforcement source told CNN that the officers pulled a gun from Sterling's body at the scene. No further details were provided on the type of firearm. The convenience store quickly became the site of protests. Flowers and signs piled up in a makeshift memorial. Protesters chanted, "Hands up, don't shoot," the line made famous in the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri about 2 years ago. Brown was also shot by a police officer. Protests against police shootings were held in most major cities, including Chicago and New York, Thursday night. And that will conclude this entry of the BBE Report with your host, Brother A. Peace and power, family.